My dear friends, just after my 1984 graduation from college, I was back on campus alongside my university president, a mentor I knew well from my college singing group gigs representing Cornell. When my mentor heard that I, a Jewish boy, was thinking about pursuing rabbinical school after completing graduate school in government, President Frank H.T. Rhodes, or Frank as he liked to be called, even though I could only call him President Rhodes, he said something that changed my life as a Jew, even if he was himself a member of the Anglican Church. I entered college, full disclosure, pre-med, until second semester organic chemistry. I dropped it before my grade. I switched to pre-law. I changed that I was pre-life when asked what my major was. I completed my undergraduate degree in economics and was halfway through my master's degree at the Kennedy School of Government when President Rhodes sensed my ambivalence just in that chance moment together about pursuing a career in politics and public policy. I was ambivalent about that while weighing 5 additional years of graduate school to become a rabbi and moving to Israel. President Rhodes calmly and reassuringly said to me in his beautiful English accent, "Micah, no matter what you pursue, remember that the successful life is ultimately composed of 3 parts: something to do, something to hope for, and someone to love." That's my message to you Temple seniors, you graduates, and you rising seniors and families. At your 13 different high school graduations, you will celebrate a well-deserved achievement, completing 12th grade. And on the second Friday Eve in May at Temple, we rejoice in the kind of growth you won't see in report cards, exams, or diplomas. On this magnificent in-person Shabbat, I find myself remembering Dr. Rhodes' wisdom and our Jewish responses to his universal prescription for a successful life. Something to do, someone to love, something to hope for. Something to do. So much of Judaism turns on this phrase. In teaching Judaism to any adult, starting with you juniors and seniors, I always stress the cardinal Jewish idea that you are what you do as a human, not what you profess to believe. The early rabbis in the ancient Midrash even imagined God saying, "Would that my children not even believe in me, but only do what is right." Certainly, Judaism initiated the idea of one God, of all humanity, but the essential leap of faith Judaism makes is that what the one God of all cares about most is the way we treat each other. Jews believe that the proof of one's faith is one's actions. And this explains why all people who strive for goodness, according to Judaism, no matter what their failings, mitzvah is that purposeful something a Jew does in response to the gift of living. Mitzvahs, we know, are more than good deeds or commandments. Mitzvah is an opportunity for holiness. Learning, for instance, is a mitzvah. So is lighting tonight's Shabbat candles. But the goal is always the same, even if it's a ritual or one of our classes. The ultimate goal in living a life of mitzvah, if you want to get it in one phrase, it's the refinement of human beings. That's why you're supposed to do a mitzvah, to refine yourself. So my response to President Rhodes' something to do is to live a life of mitzvah as best I can, and I wish the same for you graduates and rising seniors. Someone to love. We all need someone to love. The need for others is as essential to our emotional and physical well-being as our need for food or shelter. And yet, while we may all readily acknowledge the importance of having someone to love, how hard it is sometimes to achieve that goal. Breakdowns occur, even in our closest relationships. Perhaps before we can ever understand the loves in our life, Judaism says, we must first take a closer look at the one whom we rarely examine, ourselves. We're really good about talking about other people, but we really examine ourselves. Turning points like graduations are times not only to leave home, but to recommit and reconceptualize the relationships that matter most. Because as fun, it's really as essential as it is to have something to do purposefully, it's no fun to live life without others to share it with. Whether friends, a spouse, siblings, grandparents, children, other relatives, or a love relationship with the land of Israel, or all of the above. COVID forced us all to hit pause and pay closer attention to our love relationships. And while the plague is finally ending, thank God, I sure hope we don't go back to taking for granted our most precious relationships that I'm looking at right now. Finally, what would life be like without something to hope for? Did y'all know that one of the names for the Jewish people is Asirei Tikva, prisoners of hope? It's no accident. This day, May 14th, 1948, only 3 years after the murder of one of every 3 Jews in the world by the Nazis, the state of Israel was established. This was the day when they played the national anthem, Hatikva, which means literally the hope. In the face of persecution, in spite of what others took away from the Jewish people, we Jews never abandon the age-old hope and belief in a good God, despite the inhumanity exhibited by humans who use free will to recklessly and intentionally hurt others. Not that it's always easy to maintain hope. As my own closest relatives in Israel I'm talking to every day are struggling to maintain hope this week in the midst of a war with Hamas and Islamic jihadists. What restores hope for me is that my own friends serving in the IDF now are hoping that this violence de-escalates soon so that they can return home to their beautiful children and spouses. But also gives me hope are heroes still from my own high school childhood, like the tennis idol I looked up to during my high school years named Arthur Ashe. I don't know if you graduates have heard of him. He was the black tennis champion from Richmond, who was also an intellectual and statesman who rose above the racism and hatred all around him. Somehow, he too never lost hope. Even as he lay dying from the HIV he contracted from a blood transfusion received during a routine heart bypass surgery. With his wife and daughter Camera by his side, he never grew bitter. He never internalized the racism around him. He transcended it by laying the groundwork for a better world for his daughter and for other children to enjoy when he died. We learned from him and others that having something to hope for is the beginning of participation in all good things, including life itself. You know what the Talmud says? So long as there is life, there is hope. And so long as there is hope, there is life. So in closing, I am grateful to President Rhodes for clarifying for me the components of a successful life over 30 years ago in Ithaca. And I hope that whatever lessons you Temple youth have learned from our high school classes, whatever positive emotions you feel about being Jewish, I hope will resonate within each of you 30 years from now when you're close to 50. I'm talking about what I learned 30 years ago. I'm still talking about it. 30 years from now, you'll be close to 50. May each of you and your families continue living a life of mitzvah and thereby find something purposeful to do. May you all be blessed with someone who gets you, someone to love, and may you never lose hope for a world of greater humanity, even when it may seem like a distant dream. May the path before you lead to blessings. May your Jewish learning never end, and may all your prayers be answered. And let us all say, whether we're watching or here, Amen.